I know there has been a bit of debate right now with people working in AI, whether this is simply an evolution of where we are going or whether the recent advances are actually a revolution. I'm happy to hear both sides, your thoughts. The microphone?
Yeah, okay, great. I have the microphone, so I think I can start. I can talk primarily, as you've seen from my talk, about healthcare. So I see a lot of debate, especially on the ethical part of AI, especially in healthcare, because creating biases there can lead to wrong diagnoses, which can lead to death potentially. So I don't necessarily agree with that at the moment right now, as long as the research that you're doing, as you've seen the research that we are doing, is defined to some specific use cases. So I think there's definitely the potential for AI in creating a revolution in healthcare, especially because the main drawback could be that the AI makes mistake, but it's as much true that doctors also do mistakes. So worst case scenario does the same mistakes, but at least it saves time.
So you're for a revolution, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're just meant to pass the mic. Well, I guess I get the microphone because, well, I'm not sure I feel it like a revolution. I mean, it certainly looks like a revolution for many people that have not been following the actual evolution. So, for instance, when ChatGPT came out a few months ago, it certainly helped making AI more known to the masses, but it turns out that, it was essentially the scaling up of something that we have been seeing for a while. I think, I don't know, when you see a revolution from the inside, it seems just a continuation of what's happening. You can only judge it as a revolution post hoc. Maybe you see there was a paradigm shift. But having seen the field for a while, I get the excitement, lots of progress, but it has always been like that. Maybe just less made popular by the media and so on, but it feels like a continuation of a trend that's been going for decades.
Thank you. Yeah, can we pass the microphone?
I don't know, I feel like AI definitely has been a big revolution in the last couple of years. It really changed the way we solve problems. So I can not speculate very well on where it will go in the future, but I felt like the landscape changed a lot in the last couple of years. So I would say a definite yes from my end.
I agree. I'm going to say, I agree that I think I work mostly in interaction research to figure out what people want to do with computers, and the techniques until there was mostly based on heuristics, which people design sort of techniques and try to judge what people want to do, and be able to create these generalizable algorithms which can figure out how to react to people using computers was actually really powerful. We've been using ML for a very long time, for maybe decades for different types of techniques. But I think the recent changes, particularly with power of explanation and be able to connect the data capturing with sensor, with general context which happens around, and be able to place them in the same context, also fusing multiple sensors across multiple modalities. These are problems which hasn't been solved and very difficult to solve. And I think now with new techniques, I think we can actually solve them. And that's, I think, will be revolutionary because you can create truly responsive and smart, quote-unquote, systems.
Thank you.
I think some interesting things have happened. One, if you look at Krzyzewski, that was a change in the input. Somebody made something 1,000 times faster, world changed. What's weird about ChatGPT style models is the input changed slowly. The input is the size of everything, right? So that number just changed kind of linearly. But then we really got a qualitative change when we started getting something which predicts the next token can write you a lump of code. And we can argue to ourselves that it makes perfect sense, and it was easy to predict that ChatGPT would be able to write perfectly good Python code. I guarantee you that 5 years ago, you would not find a researcher who will tell you that predicting the next token in an autoregressive manner will give you coherent speech, will give you something that writes code. Has anyone tried to use ChatGPT to write code? Yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. Isn't it amazing? I mean, first time I wanted to control the zoom on my webcam. So I said, hey, I was like Googling. I was like, I've got Windows, so it's direct show. And I knew there would be some horrendous piece of direct show to write. So I said to ChatGPT, eventually I realized I should ask it to write me the code. So it said, I wanted it in Python. I said, import PyDirectShow, device caps equals, it all looked really good. Didn't work at all. So I pasted it in, said to it, sorry, Google never heard of PyDirectShow. And then it did that thing that you all know, but I'm just bringing it out. I'll say, I'm so sorry, yeah, it's not widely known. Here's some more code, which did work. And I just think, I don't know, I guess I'm saying that is qualitatively fundamentally different to anything we've had before. And I think we need to think about what it means. I would definitely say, whatever research problem you're addressing, so we're looking, for example, at molecular machine learning, right? Take a smile string describing a molecule and predict a number. Always try it on ChatGPT first. Right? That's part of your job as a researcher, is to make sure that ChatGPT can't do the problem you're about to solve.
That's good advice.
Yeah, I think for me, technically, maybe I agree with the fact that, seeing the revolution from the inside makes you see it more like incremental work. Every work builds upon some other work. But I think the real revolution is that before AI was a bunch of nerds coding around, and now the whole society is interested in it, which means that thousands and thousands of brains are thinking about how to use AI. And I think this has been the biggest revolution because AI is now everywhere and everyone is interested in it. So I think that's the big mind change here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like the AI, everybody talks about it, but it's not there yet in many products, right? So I think the revolution is going to be like in the way because of the software, for example, we spoke about ChatGPT being able to write code in the way the product will changes, right? For example, apps will be personalized, maybe, everybody will have the same coherent interface across different products. I don't know, I feel like because of, the ease with which we can, like, either, which will be able to generate code or generate images, etc., are going to change, like, the way we do things, like when we make product.
And Andrea, can we hear from you on this one too?
So what I think is interesting is that as a community, researchers, we are used to basically go through revolutions over and over, right? I've been in this for about 15 years. Every 4 years, my entire research landscape changes. Either a completely new tool that I have to pick up or a completely new paradigm that I have to pick up. I have to scratch whatever I had and restart from zero. But for many people, this is not the case, right? There's people that spend their entire life performing the same task over and over and over. And so it's a bit, I think that's where the problem stems by. Like, we are designing it, but we're just used to change. But there is a large swath of the population that is just not. And adapting to new things quickly is not part of their life. And so that's where the revolution versus evolution comes from. For us, it's evolution. For them, it's a revolution because they cannot adapt fast enough. And understanding how to make that maybe a bit less painful for them and teaching them how to integrate and evolve perhaps might be the way forward.
Yes, well said. Thank you. Thank you all for chiming in. I'm happy to open it up to the audience. I have a list of questions, but it'd be great if you wanted to raise your hand. And here we have one right here in the middle. Thank you. If you could stand up and say your name, that'd be great.
Hi, my name is Stefano. I have a question for Greta. So we saw in your talk how integrating AI models in healthcare treatments greatly improved the treatment for the patients. So my question is, which healthcare field do you think would gather the most from integration with AI models?
Thank you. That's a great question. I think for sure everything that needs time saving, So, like intervention, a fast intervention and diagnosis of stroke, where it's fundamental to move quickly. Any sort of diagnosis that needs fast approach will greatly benefit from AI. So yeah, I see it in stroke. I see it, as I said before, in calibration, where you need to save much more time compared to what we're doing right now. And even, all those apps that are doing diagnosis, like preliminary diagnosis. While there's a lot of debate on those, I think there's a high value in using AI to provide a preliminary diagnosis because it saves not only the time of the patient, even traveling to the doctor and getting a feedback. Again, the doctor can make the same mistakes as the AI in this case, but also time of the doctor, which is extremely valuable, and time, because if the AI can diagnose something that is extremely simple for it, the doctor can treat another patient, which maybe needs more attention because it's a more complex problem.
Thank you. Yes, we have a question here.
Can I just do a follow-up on that one?
Yeah,
just
sure.
Asking you again. What do you think about AI-driven drug discovery and that sort of thing?
That's a huge topic. I mean, also from like more business perspective, it creates gigantic problems in terms of regulatory approval. Now the AI Act, especially on the medical devices, is going to be a huge topic. I think there's a lot of potential, but I think we still have to wait a lot to arrive to a point where that can go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Sure, just another question on the topic. So, if I understand correctly, you're eventually deploying a system so that it can recalibrate an existing, an existing tool implanted into the patient, so that the patient doesn't have to recalibrate it at the hospital every 2 days or something. So, how do you gather whether this is safe, whether some recalibration can be dangerous to the patient without, being at the hospital and checking?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So basically with the closed loop system, so with every closed loop system, you record and you stimulate. You have a sensing and an actuating part. So as long as you perform a great model and a great algorithm that takes into consideration several things, the recording part can tell you if the algorithm is making something wrong. So for example, if the algorithm decides by itself, because there has been some sort of adaptation to increase the amount of current injected inside of the body, the sensing part may understand that there is a stress in terms of body reaction, increased heart rate, increase the conductivity, and then the algorithm decides to decrease the current of the stimulation. So you need to make sure that you take these things into account, but this is exactly what has been done for example, for vagus nerve stimulation, to continuously record and stimulate, or for example, give insulin. They have closed loop system now that record your glucose level in the body, and conforming to that, they give you insulin. But those systems have inside like an alarm bell saying, hey, but if there is some sort of non-equilibrium balance in the biometric signals of the patient, stop injecting insulin or current or whatsoever.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so if you would like to give your question.
I think it's not. Okay, it's work. So I am Alessandro, and I had a question for the Bending Spoon AI team. And I mean, my question is, today we have seen a lot of application, let's say research about AI in the field of imaging, and also, of course, applied to videos. So my question, because of course, you have a product which is very successful on that. So my question is, are there any other fields of the AI that you are currently working on for products that you're gonna release?
Yes. Yes, for example, we are working with LLMs for Evernote, which is a note-taking app. So we just released like an AI cleaning feature, and we just released an AI-powered search, which is also generative. So you retrieve the notes build the context, use the context to build the prompt, feed the prompt to the LLM, and it's going to generate the reply for you. And this is going to be a big change, I think, in the way we search things, right? We basically ingest information. And another application that we are exploring right now, which I think is really interesting, which uses language models, is changing the way the user interacts with the UIs, right? Basically, having an LLM understand the intent of the user and define the set of operations that are generally applied by touching button, etc. Basically using agents, LLM agents. Yeah. So this is like a couple of things that we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we have a question there in the back.
Emanuele, thank you all for the interesting and inspiring talks. My question is about regulation of AI. Do you think AI should be regulated at all? And if yes, how can you do that without harming the progress, the research, and companies like Bending Spoons that heavily invest in that? Thank you.
Good question.
I mean, definitely we need to regulate the data usage, right? It's important that, users that upload their own data, they know about the privacy, they consent, whether they know about like how we use their data, they consent or not. That for sure. On other regulations, like on the output of the AI, like should we regulate that? I don't know. Of course, we need to detect and prevent like the sharing of like malicious content, I don't know, deepfakes, etc. But yeah.
Well, if I may, there's also regulation related not to the data, but to the outcome that AI systems are influencing. For instance, there has been I don't know if it's final or anyway under discussion, a EU directive about the usage of AI in banking, where of course the usage of any kind of automated system, whether based on AI or whatever else criterion, can have an impact on whether you're lent credit or whatever. So it can have an impact on people's lives. And there the regulation tries to not constrain what you can do or what technology you can do, but the kind of control you must have over the system in order to be allowed to deploy it in the wild. The idea being that you don't want to stifle innovation in AI. You just want to make sure that when it's deployed in critical sectors, then you have as much control as before over the outcome of whatever the AI system is doing. The other point I would like to make is whatever kind of regulation is made about AI needs to be a concerted effort among states. It's kind of moot to code and the AI now it's global. We can trivially access repository made by people all over the world. So it does not make sense to there's some kind of regulation in the EU which is not abided to in the US or in China. Then it's just competitive advantage to a different state. So there have been examples in the past of doing international treaties to regulate important technology. The most obvious example is nuclear technology, which is regulated by an international body, which oversees the deployment of nuclear technology all over the world. We're not at the point, I think, where we can compare AI to nuclear. But if any kind of you're not convinced. No. But anyway, if any kind of regulation has to be done, it's to be done at the international level. But I am curious to hear what Andrea is thinking.
I'm leaning forward because I have back problems, by the way. No, I agree with you. It's like, assume that let's say Europe and Northern America establishes some regulations to limit the speed of development of these techniques. Do you really think it's going to slow down in other countries? We might be the drivers, but if you slow it down here, the only thing you're going to do is that you're going to give competitive advantage to others to do exactly the same thing, and with the slight difference that you're going to have no idea whether something is possible or not, because you do not know what's possible if you're not developing it yourself. So I don't know exactly what we should do, but for sure, trying to slow it down and prevent it from happening is not this choice that you should follow.
I tend to have an inordinate amount of trust in humans. I think it's interesting to ask how the law works. So, what was it, 1999, we put candles in Harry Potter. It was the first time, around the time of Jurassic Park. Who's seen Jurassic Park? The rest of you should go and see it. Around the time of Jurassic Park, we were making videos that looked real. They look like deepfakes do now, in the sense that members of the public thought, how are you going to make, how am I going to be able to tell real and generated, real and fake video? And the funny thing was that the thing that people worried about was the law. How could photos be used as evidence in legal cases if you couldn't prove that they were real or fake? But last time I checked, photos were just existing in the last century. Right? Only the 20th century had photos, and the law is thousands of years old. So we just lived in that funny century where there was a kind of a mechanical source of truth, the camera, and that was a blip. So for me, deepfakes are just more of the same. The law is going to have to figure out how to deal with it, and that'll be fine. Humans will figure it out. The law that I think is interesting today is the one that already applies to GPT in Europe, which is the right to be forgotten, or the right to have your data removed from some system. And I think that is going to be really interesting, because I do not see how I can remove my name from GPT. I mean, I can try and filter the output, we can do stuff, and if people have technological ideas, I think it's interesting. But for me, what I like is the idea that there are more transformers now being trained with retrievers inside them. So the transformer has a vector search, and the transformer engine is much smaller, while the vector search component is much larger. And I really like this because it's going to be explainable, and it's going to run really fast on our hardware. I didn't say that last thing. But yeah, I do think that what I'm saying is that we are going to have to think of technological solutions to achieve societal goals like the right to forget, and they will deeply influence our code, and that's cool.
Ivan?
So I think there's two components to the, from my perspective, two components for regulation, at least two, which I was myself had to deal with. There is one of them, well, I mean, there's many. One of them is, for example, if you want to ship a product, if you want to ship a jacket or a shoe or a bucket or anything physical, there's a law defined by Federal Trade Commission and European Trade Commission, which state that the product has to answer reasonable user needs as advertised. And if it doesn't do what advertised, you're going to hit with the fines, the product is going to be removed. And I actually had to deal with that myself, because whenever you ship a new product, which haven't been done before, what reasonable user can expect is undefined. And when I was working at Google, we did this project where we did with Levi's, we shipped this smart jacket where you have woven fibers, which had a copper component, so you can control your phone from by doing gesture on the woven fabrics. And our legal department completely collapsed and said, like, we don't know how many times it can be washed, because jacket's supposed to be washed, but if you wash it too many times, your jacket with the copper fiber is going to break, so it's going to stop working. So it's not going to. Federal Trade Commission is going to sue us. So we spent a month or 3 months trying to figure out how many times people wash a regular jacket, how they expect to wash, denim jacket. Turns out it's 10 times. So we put a label on the box saying this jacket has to be washed no more than 10 times. At the moment we launched the product, Guardian wrote an article, Google released the jacket which can only wash 10 times. It was a big scandal. So, this is what happens when you're trying to do this kind of things. It sometimes becomes a parody on itself and the laws. And it's very easy to go in this crazy cycle of coming up with regulations for technology. We don't know what technology does, right? So it just becomes a joke. This is one side. And the second side is sort of this moralistic regulations. Is it the good thing, And people try to regulate video games, comics, movies, music, clothing. Every time politicians decides that this clothes are not appropriate, this music you're not supposed to listen, this comic you're not supposed to read. And I think there's a big direction in that direction. AI is bad because it's going to corrupt all of you, and you're going to become zombies and kill each other or something like that, right? So this sort of logic goes there, and I think this is the most, from my perspective, the most dangerous types of regulations, because it's not based on any concrete facts or concrete measurable results or concrete measurable data, just based on people's opinion, what is right for the people, what's not for the people, and it just ends up in kind of this, again, another spiral. So, did I answer the question?
Any other questions from the audience? Oh, gosh, okay. Here, we have one there.
I'm Andre, and I have a follow-up question on the thing you just said. And it's, don't you think that the society will get kind of dumber with the approach of ChatGPT and stuff? Because, like, when I was young, I'm quite happy that there wasn't ChatGPT and the thing, because when I got a homework in school, I wrote it myself, but now people can just ask it to write it for them. Or there are, like, more of these use cases also, like, for example, my brain doesn't store as many information as it could, because there's our Wikipedia, which I can just turn to and ask questions, and I don't have to store the stuff. So my question is if you don't think that it's just going to make society like lazier and not do stuff, and yeah.
Well, you can make this argument with electricity too, right? You know, we used to chop woods, you know, make our own heat, make our own food. You know, I think there's kind of, I think somebody was talking today about this kind of grunt work, which we do because we have no other tools to make it better. And there's a work which actually kind of requires the creativity, ingenuity, and so on and so forth. It's hard to know where this line is, and we don't know how society is going to adopt. I'll tell you one story. Again, so I don't know the answer. Are people going to become dumber because of AI? Maybe. But there's an interesting story. So, like, when phones came up, right, and with texting, right, and people started texting each other, like WhatsApp and Telegrams and all this stuff. People started writing each other, and there was this study published in Wired magazine, which was saying that this technology dramatically expands people's ability to write, because an average person stops writing after high school. You know, you get out of the high, I mean, these people probably keep writing all the time, code or papers and all that, but the regular person, you know, gets out of the high school or whatever, middle school, and never writes again. You don't write a message, you don't write, maybe you write a postcard to grandma, you know, for the New Year's. That's pretty much it, right? And this technology really pushed people like in their 50s and 60s and 70s actually go back, start writing, and that's improve their mental capacity and make them, you know, start activating the part of the brain which probably was kind of slowly atrophied. Right? So maybe it will be the same with ChatGPT, where people actually start asking questions we never asked before, start typing, asking more, and learning more, because it becomes easier. So it's hard to predict, you know, what's going to happen.
There's this fun anecdote about ancient philosophers. I think it might have been Plato, but I don't remember, who was very strongly against books, because you know, books, this newfangled thing, would make people no longer have to remember anything, and he thought their memory would become worse because of it. Actually, I have a small comment about the regulation stuff as well. That was, you know, there's ethical use of AI and the question whether that can be regulated, but then there's also this nuclear question that was touched upon by Andrea, which, you know, the singularity, are we all going to become paperclips if we optimize the wrong method and let it loose? I just find it funny that, you know, there are actually researchers that are trying to build AIs in such a way that they will provably allow the human to turn them off afterward. They unfortunately don't make as fast progress as the researchers who are trying to make AI more capable, but they've been really warning us about this. And then the first thing when GPT was invented was they let it loose on the internet without any second thought. Yeah, so I'm hoping there won't be a singularity at any point.
Thank you. We have time for one or two more questions. We have one right here.
Could I just give one quick answer on that one? what I love are the ingenuity that academics are putting into making ChatGPT-proof exams. So I was at a brilliant conference and I met someone who teaches museum curation. And her exams were already ChatGPT-proof.
Sorry, microphone.
Were already ChatGPT-proof because she gets the students to do a real task that she needs to do in the museum. So she doesn't care at all if they use ChatGPT. You know, she just gives them a task. They do it, they get the grades, the thing gets done. So there's something kind of very, I thought that was quite cool. And it doesn't matter whether you use the calculator or read the book or use ChatGPT.
Okay, thank you. We have one here.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Oh, my name is Nadine. It is a great pleasure to be here, and there was very interesting talks I've had from here. So the question I have is not pointing anyone in the speakers, but is a general question that I want to ask. A person might have a good idea or an idea related to AI in research, but the support or the idea the person has need to be maybe work in the group. Is there opportunities that is open for those persons who wish to join your research groups or companies so that they can gain those skills that you've been talking about here, and also they implement their ideas they have? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, what is your advice for someone who wants to be in your shoes someday? Take it away. Laura, do you want to start? You got a really cool job.
So okay, first of all, like no path is the wrong path, right? So I see like plenty of people with completely different backgrounds ending up at the exact same spot and doing things brilliantly in a different way. So diversity is always something that we value. There are several ways that you can get in touch, for example, with NVIDIA. Of course, you can do an internship. You can just, contact someone or talk to someone at a conference and say, hey, I find your paper super cool. Let's talk about it. I have a few ideas. This very simple gesture often works wonderfully because you get this personal touch. You show that you have interest in a person's work. And usually, we are super simple researchers. We just like people telling us that our work is cool. So I think, in general, like, if you're passionate about what you're doing, if you, take the steps, educate yourself, you will just figure it out. I think any step that you take forward is going to be the right step for you. I wouldn't worry too much about, did I make the right decision or not? Like, usually these things all end up in the place where you have to be.
Yeah, I also think now, these days there are a lot of resources online, and you can access that. And what I would recommend is to find something, a part of AI that you like, work on it, take a paper from someone, implement it, maybe slightly improve it, and then, ping the person saying, hey, by the way, I've been working on your paper, I did this change, it worked better, or can you help me with that, right? So showing, not interest, of course, helps a lot, but also showing that you've done something already, that helps, I would say, yeah.
I would also add on top of this, make sure that you choose somebody because you like their research. I really think what you said is extremely interesting. Like, if I think anybody of us, if we received an email by somebody that read our papers just randomly and said, hey, did you think about that? I mean, I would be super curious to know this person just because they're doing something that stands out of the crowd. They're not just sending me their CV or a motivational letter that, you receive so many. And then in the end, you should do something that really stands out. So go in conferences, speak to people, send emails, spam everybody's email. Just really do it all. And but be guided throughout all this process, not just to achieve something sporadically, but have your own mission, your own purpose in what you do.
Yeah, I tend to agree with most of what has been said so far. I think the internet is such a wonderful resource. If you go on YouTube, you can find full, complete lectures from Stanford and similar universities just uploaded there for free, which you can use to learn most of the topics that we've talked about actually on your own at home without worrying about costs or tuition or going to university. And what Federico said also really resonated with me. I've actually had that specific situation where a master level student approached us and he really demonstrated his passion for the topic by having hacked on our code bases and done genuinely cool things. And we ended up picking him over candidates that were near the end of their PhD for that very reason. So yes, very much so.
Yeah, I don't think I can add more to what other people said, but I think I would just start, I think just building stuff and getting it out. It's as simple as that, you know. Small things, small project, just like building the portfolio, I think, and getting it out. I think that's what kind of gets you moving. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, again, little to add to everything that has been said. Just one more thing, maybe. The more AI gets popular, the more you can find like open source implementations, discussions in online forums such as Reddit and so on. So nowadays, at least in the field where I work, which is generative AI, which is very much popular these days, I see more and more things, more innovations not coming from academia, but from dabblers, people that just play with these models and find some technique that works cool. Maybe it's not a super complicated technique. Maybe it's just, you know, the combination of two existing techniques or a one-line code change that obtains some results, and maybe they post the result on Reddit, or they make a small repository online. And oftentimes, it's hard to distinguish. Such casual results may sometimes achieve the same quality that a complex research papers obtains by different means. So I think you can. A good way to get your feet wet is just to try and play online with many implementations. You can try to do some small modification and see whether you can obtain something. It depends, of course, on your particular aim, but even small incremental modification done by random casual users sometimes are very, very useful.
Thank you. Did you want to add, or?
I love to disagree with people.
Okay.
What they're saying is true. You can actually get good at what you're doing by going on the internet and learning your own thing. But if you then think about how hiring is done at the industrial level, so imagine you're working at Apple, right? You cannot talk about what you have done. It's completely secret, right? You can say, I've worked on this topic and that's it. What have you done? I cannot tell you, right? And so most of the transition of jobs in industry happens by knowledge graphs. So I know somebody that has moved to a different company. This person is great. This is what he's great at. You should hire it, hands down, right? So you have to get yourself to the place where you leverage the social network of the area where you are, find the best person in your department that puts you in the best position to move to your next location. A project lasts, 6 months to a year at most? Impress the best person in your social network and then hop to the next opportunity and keep climbing the ladder up, one step at a time. Don't go right away to somebody that's completely out of your league because they will not reply to you, period, right? But the person that is like within your network already and that you're looking up to, you can impress them, and then they will connect you to their social network, and they can impress the best person within that social network, and then keep climbing in that way. So develop both your technical skills, but also expand your network continuously until you can get to where you want. And this is actually the same advice I gave you at the table today, but I guess that applies to the larger audience. That's already with you, Andrew, right?
I would just, I'm just going to kind of re-emphasize something that people are saying. So if you're completely on your own, contributing to an open source project is a great way to add to your CV. Just pick something you like, and if there's anything that you don't like about it, send in a pull request. I know that'll only apply for some people, but it works really, really well. And the other thing is just generally, if you're stuck in your research, implement another paper. Grab a random paper, implement it, right? You're not changing the state of the art, you're just catching up. But if you keep catching up, eventually you'll accidentally leapfrog. So, yeah, or make a new visualization. Those are good daily jobs.
A case in point, half of the papers that I've published, the ideas came about while implementing some other paper. Like, you're going to get ideas while you're implementing somebody else's code. You're going to find something that they didn't think about, that you think about, and you'll make it better.
It's great advice, everyone, and very inspiring. So thank you for sharing that. We are going to close the questions, but do stick around. Everybody's going to have drinks soon, so you will be able to approach people personally. But I am going to take on the final question. And I want to think about the bigger picture, think about the possibilities, and I want to know what you are the most excited about. This could be a possible disruption. This could be a possible breakthrough. This could be something you're working on that gets you out of bed every morning. So who would like to kick it off? Thomas?
That's a tough one. I mean, can I speak more generally? It's not necessarily AI that I'm excited about. I am super happy about progress for the human race, like the idealistic kind, like exploring space. I find it super cool that SpaceX is doing space exploration these days. And I'm wondering how much of a role AI will help in simulating dynamics for these, space vehicles. I'm super excited about the transition toward electric cars around the world and all kinds of other improvements involved with our societies and privilege and climate change and these sort of topics. And I think I really can play pivotal roles. And actually, a comment going back to drug discovery. Like, I don't know many biologists with a touch of computer science, but the ones that I do know, all of them use AlphaFold from DeepMind, which is an AI that helps in predicting how proteins behave, which is probably going to be instrumental in not just drug discovery, but in various biological processes. They all already use it. They know it. They leverage it. I'm sure it'll be much more successful in the future. So I'm just excited in general about everything that's going to happen, basically. See, I'm a positive person.
An optimist.
As I have the mic, I'm just going to say, I mean, it's obvious, but driverless cars will completely change the world in a way that nothing did ever before. For me, the simplest way to understand it is to think no parked cars anywhere. What is your world, what is your city like with 0 parked cars? Right? That means there's space for trees down the center of all those narrow streets. It's really going to change everything. I lost one bet that it would have happened by 2021, and my next bet, 2 cases of wine, is for 2026. So,
Nice.
I think you're overly optimistic, but...
But then I'll have 4 cases of wine in 2021.
So I completely agree with Andrew. So I'm super excited, and my research touches very much upon autonomous driving. So I'm really super excited about where that would lead for society. But we have plenty of challenges where AI can help, right? We have like climate change. We have all kinds of, inclusion, societal challenges where AI is currently helping. I think that's, there's plenty of challenges and plenty of things to get excited about. I think that it's a really exciting time to also get into this field.
Excited about AI helping to communicate with each other. For example, I see right now voice cloning. Basically, for example, I think OpenAI helped like Spotify to voice clone the podcast from English to all the other language, which, I mean, for us, maybe, we speak English, fine, whatever, but imagine like high quality content that now is accessible to so many more people, right? I was also excited to see like Lex Freeman and Zuckerberg. That was quite impressive, honestly. It's felt, the podcast they had in the metaverse feels like it was quite immersive. So excited to try that at some point.
So recently played Baldur's Gate 3, and one thing I really liked about that game was that every single virtual character, every non-player character was voiced completely through and through. That made such a difference to the immersion. And I just want to play all of these old games that already exist, that only have textual content and have voice synthesized in exactly the way that Federico just said. That would be so amazing.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's quite obvious what I'm excited about, healthcare. But for me, really, the idea of, in the future, having a upgraded wearable device that everybody has in their hands or in their feet that can exactly tell them when they need to take a medication, what type of medication, if they're having a stroke, if they're at risk of developing diabetes. And I see this as feasible, yeah, probably not in 1 or 2 years, definitely not in 2026, but it will be possible. And I'm extremely excited for that, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm actually not that excited about self-driving cars. I tried. I worked with a Waymo for a while, and I was like, whatever. I'm more I'm actually excited about public transportations happening in the United States at some point, like trains. I'm excited about trains. That'd be nice. I'm seriously, you know, like I'm coming to. I enjoy taking trains. When I'm coming to Japan, Europe, but taking trains is so awesome. You know, like I hate driving and cars and this highways is just crazy. So I'm not happy about it. I'm not excited about it. But so I'm obviously excited about my stuff, what I'm doing. But outside of that, I really hope, like, these guys will make like movies better and games better. So, because that's, I think, like what we have right now. I just remember like Grand Theft Auto #3, Vice City. Who played that? I mean, that's the best game ever, right? I mean, it's amazing. I really was hoping they we rebuild it, Vice City, like with new graphics, a completely generated, beautiful screen. That's kind of my hope. I think movies going to make a gigantic leap. I don't think we use. I used to work for Sony for a long time. I don't think we use the media of the TV or the media of production like in full capacity, right? We don't track people's emotions in front of the TV, for example, right? We don't adjust the storyline based on people's reaction. It's just a linear thing. It's so old. It's been like, what, for 200 years, the same stuff, right? It has to become interactive at some point, right? All this AI should be applicable to create a story on the fly, so it changes directions and personalized entertainment and stories, you know, for you. Same with everything, you know, like music, songs. It should stop being static. Why it's like one linear recording? Makes no sense. So that's kind of exciting, but I'm not going to do this. So it's these guys should do it. So it's all of them.
I think what you're saying about non-linear storytelling, it's a Disney thing, because yesterday she asked me a question and I said exactly non-linear storytelling, tracking emotion, etc.
Exactly, yeah.
Also interactive storytelling. Imagine you can stop the movie and talk with the actor inside it. You ask the question, sorry, you know.
That's right.
Let's say again.
You can give advice to the actor, you know, like acting advice, you know?
Act again.
Yeah, really, like get them in the character. Come on, you can do it. You know, something like that. So I suggest how to solve the crime scene, you know, and make the whole thing change direction. It'd be nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the disadvantage I see in this kind of interactive storytelling and stuff is that it's something we're already losing right now, for instance, with music. The more we're going to personalize recommendations, the more it's hard to share interest with other people. So it used to be very common for everyone to see the same shows, see the same movies, which is boring. But at the same time, it was even, you know, something you could talk about. There was a shared culture about, you know, books, movies, songs. The more we go into personalized content, now with recommendation systems, and in the future with even personalized stuff just for us, which is created, generated on the fly, the more difficult it will be, you know, to share the experience with someone else and, you know, talk about this last book you have read, because it's not just the same book. They took a different path midway through the book. So I'm kind of ambivalent on this. It's cool on one sense, but it gives me a sense of loneliness in the other sense. Another thing I'm actually excited about is we're not quite there yet with ChatGPT, but you start having a glimpse of interesting conversation, which does not mean I love to have interest conversation with people, but sometimes your interest is slightly too specific, not mainstream, that it's hard to, you know, talk about some particular interest that you have. Maybe you want to learn some topics in depth, and it's something that you are very interested about and most people just don't care about, and you want, maybe you're learning this on your own and you're not kind of sure whether you're on the right track, and having someone to, have a little back and forth to see whether you're learning the things correctly. Like something that helps you learn new topics, new things that you want to invest on is very cool. We're not there yet because half of the time you get bullshit responses, and so you're never quite sure that you're on the right track or just ChatGPT just invented stuff that's not there. But it would be cool if eventually we would get there. And the other thing I'm excited about is giving everyone the possibility to, the UX revolution we were talking about, giving everyone the possibility of using complex tools. I'm thinking, for instance, of image editing, but there are other use cases where you don't need to master these tools for years before being able to do professional kind of work, but you will just have someone who's just good at following direction, that it will do whatever you want. So maybe you have, I don't know, a picture from the holidays, but there's little bad weather and some people you didn't want in the picture, and maybe someone came up with closed eyes and you would like to have the perfect picture to hang it on your wall. And right now you can do if you're an expert in Photoshop or something, but it would be nice for everyone to be able to do this kind of work, and not only for pictures, but all kind of generative content.
Thank you. Andrea?
Perhaps there is two. The first one is on an area that I don't work at all, which can be described as the death of bureaucracy, right? So data entry, like how many times have you entered the information about your password, date of birth, and so on for registering for a check-in flight? Why am I doing that about 30 times a year? I have no idea. But getting to tools that can get rid of that part of my life would be great. Which also would, as a side face to it, right? Bureaucracy and legal work that are actually connected to each other, right? Entering data, respecting rules that have been prescribed by somebody else. And also the democratization of legal work will also be another giant facet. Right now, if somebody does you wrong, you have the power. That power comes with money to sue them and be respected. That power is a power that not a lot of people has, right? Because the cost of law is extremely high. And so I hope that what is happening right now with language models will reduce the barriers so that money is not what you need to basically get, not be abused by others in your daily life. So that's one aspect, bureaucracy and legal. So very non-doomsday. The other one is much more doomsday, which is the ability to control and monitor our environment and help the environment, and helping humans not to destroy the environment, which is actually the opposite to your view. It's a very doomsday, like we're not doing well in terms of respecting Earth, and perhaps AI will help us, monitoring what we have, making sure it's not abused by third party, monitoring international waters so we can avoid overfishing and so on and so forth. And any tool that help us in that direction will be super helpful, with a help that is much larger than whatever negative effect we might get in other directions in terms of long term.
I just want to clarify for what it's worth that I share the same opinion. I don't actually think the doomsday scenario is likely.
Well, thank you all so much. I'm excited to see what everybody here in this room walks away with and what you do next. There's a lot of leaders here, lots of inspiration, and I can't wait to see what everyone does. So give our speakers a final round of applause. Thank you.